the Montgomery Virtual Academy and the application process for students with disabilities. By the end of this presentation, you will understand the IEP development for students concurrently enrolled in the Montgomery Virtual Academy, and understand the application process beginning in the 2022-2023 school year. Virtual instruction for students with disabilities is new territory in education. While virtual instruction has been around for many years, the COVID pandemic has impacted the way that we see virtual instruction and the widespread use of it for students with disabilities. It poses unique challenges and opportunities. IEPs are traditionally developed for brick and mortar schools, and the IDEA is silent on virtual instruction for students with disabilities. And by all indications, it will remain silent. So much of the work that we do is treading new territory for students with disabilities and providing opportunities for instruction that we have not typically used in special education. The obligation to provide a free, appropriate public education is still the most paramount concern for school systems, whether the student is in person or virtual. At times, parent choice may conflict with an IEP team's recommendations. The Montgomery Virtual Academy, which began in the 2021-2022 school year, has posed some unique challenges for students with disabilities. That is why the Department of Special Education Services has been working collaboratively with the MVA to plan for the 22-23 school year. The goal is to make the transition to and from the MVA and home and service schools more seamless, and to ensure the students who are receiving services are receiving their IEP services with fidelity. Some things to know. The MVA accepts applications on a rolling basis. The Department of Special Education Services has collaborated with the MVA to develop a new application review process for students enrolling during the 22-23 school year. The MVA may not unilaterally refuse enrollment of any student with a disability because of the nature and severity of the student's disability or the needs that are identified in the IEP. When there is no admission criteria, then refusing to enroll a student with a disability may be considered discriminatory. The MVA is a program of parent choice. However, students who enroll in the MVA are concurrently enrolled at their home or service school. The MVA is not a standalone school. It has not been recognized by the Maryland State Department of Education as a school. Rather, it is a program offered by Montgomery County Public Schools. It is not an IEP placement. It should not be considered as part of the least restrictive environment continuum. It's also not a placement for students with disciplinary or attendance issues. Students should not be considered, recommended, or referred to the MVA in order to deal with disciplinary removals, poor attendance, or other issues that may be a barrier to education in the traditional in-person learning setting. During IEP development for students with disabilities who may be enrolling in the virtual academy, do not consider the MVA as a placement option for the student. Develop your IEP as you would normally develop it, considering the students' present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, considering the goal areas, the amount of services that the student requires, the supplementary aids and services that are appropriate to meet the student's needs, and the least restrictive environment. Again, the least restrictive environment does not include the MVA as a placement option. Also, during IEP development, no changes to provisions of the IEP should be made. Remember, the MVA is a choice program. The school team is required to continue to develop and implement IEPs that are appropriate for the student's needs, regardless of placement in the MVA. Finally, the IEP team should not identify specific sections of the IEP that will not or cannot be implemented in the MVA. There should be no note, no notices, nothing in the prior written notice that would indicate that particular services, supplementary aids, goals, or service hours will not be implemented in the MVA. The IEP team should assume that the services can, will, should be implemented in the MVA to the maximum extent possible. During any IEP meeting with a student who is currently enrolled or who will enroll in the MVA, document in the prior written notice the recommendations of the team and any dissent of the parent related to the revisions to the IEP for virtual instruction. In other words, the parent may feel that certain sections of the IEP should be revised to reflect virtual instruction. However, the IEP team should consider what the student needs in an in-person setting. Changes should not be made purely because of virtual instruction. Again, it is a choice program. Here's a note on waiver of rights. Parents are not required, nor should they be asked to waive any rights under the IDEA where we believe that we cannot provide services because of participation in the MVA. For example, a parent waives the right to file due process because MCPS cannot provide certain services in the MVA. This should never be written in a prior written notice. Parents retain all of their due process procedural safeguards, regardless of whether a team believes that the IEP can or cannot be implemented, regardless of whether the parent chooses the option of enrolling the student concurrently in the MVA. If a parent files due process, MCPS's defense is that we have thoroughly documented the student's needs, appropriate services, and an appropriate program and placement versus the parent's option and selection of the MVA. In other words, document, document, document. Beginning in the 22-23 school year, students who are newly enrolling in the MVA will have a specific application process that will help the Office of Special Education to be aware of and assist the MVA in transitioning students into the virtual program. When a parent submits an application for the MVA, The MVA administrator will determine if there's space available in the program. Once there is space, the administrator will contact the Associate Superintendent of Special Education and the supervisor of the Resolution and Compliance Unit to inform them of the applicant. The special education supervisor assigned to the home or service school or program for which a student is assigned will be notified that the student is applying to the virtual academy. An introductory meeting will be scheduled with the parent or guardian of the applicant. The special education supervisor and a representative from the MVA will attend this meeting. During the meeting, the following will be discussed with the parent or guardian. There will be an explanation of the MVA, what courses are offered, how classes are structured, what the school day looks like. There will be an explanation of the concurrent enrollment of the student in both the home and service school, as well as the MVA program. There will also be discussion of case management duties of the home and service school, as well as the MVA. The parent expectations and considerations of the student's strengths and weaknesses in virtual instruction will be discussed. Finally, expectations of the student while enrolled in a virtual instruction program will be discussed with the family. After the parent meeting, the MVA will complete the enrollment process, and an enrollment letter will be issued by the MVA dean. This letter will inform the parent or guardian and the principal of the home or service school that the student is now concurrently enrolled in the MVA and home or service school. After the application process is completed and the student is enrolled, the MVA and home and service school should work collaboratively. First, both should identify a case manager at the MVA and the home or service school. The case manager's contact information should be provided to the parent or guardian so that they are aware who is their point of contact at both the home or service school and the MVA. Finally, the two case managers should manage the scheduling of IEP meetings, data collection, and other case management tasks. The IDEA in Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 protects the rights of students with disabilities to access the general education curriculum and to be free from discrimination while doing so. Parents and guardians can exercise choice in education, but ultimately the obligation to provide a FAPE is the school system's. Our job is to ensure that parents and guardians are equal participants in the IEP process. However, the IEP team ultimately is responsible for making good, data-driven, documented decisions for students. For assistance and for any questions you may have for students in your buildings who may be enrolling in the virtual academy for the 22-23 school year, you can contact the Resolution and Compliance Unit at 240-740-3230.